We're back.
We're back.
We're back.
He's coming.
After a little bit of relaxed time, we're back. Except it wasn't all that relaxed.
What did you do?
I broke my hip and femur, and they replaced it with some rods and bolts and screws and things like that.
So
and,
basically a vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah, basically a vacation.
Real vacation.
Yeah.
Very painful vacation.
Yeah, did you give any Mai Tais when you were out there, or what? Did you have any nice cocktails when you were in the...
No,
Oh, he had some cocktails, all right. in
Some
the
cocktails!
So then we went to recovery acceptance, you call it something else.
It's called the Wesley Homes.
Wesley Homes short-term
Rehab.
rehab.
Gotcha.
You
Rehabilitation.
say you want to go to rehab. I said
Yeah.
no, no, no.
Is that how you
And,
feel? Did Whitney get it right? You don't want to go to rehab? No, no, no.
Yeah, rehab. I want to tell you that that's a very excellent place. If you have to go there, or if you should go there, it's almost an international place. There were people, there were helpers, aides, and nurses and stuff from West Africa, Kenya, quite a few from Kenya, Nairobi,
Punjab.
Punjab was a nice little nurse from Punjab, Panji.
She was his favorite.
Is that right?
Yeah.
She called him Papa.
Sorry for my ignorance. Is
Call
that
me
India?
Papa,
It's
yeah.
India.
India, okay.
Call me Papa.
Harpreet was from India as well.
Well, that's Punjab.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
India, and some from I think Iraq, and some from Vietnam, and some from Mexico.
Wow, so you got a worldly experience at the
Yeah.
Wesley House, huh?
Jamaica. T was from Jamaica.
Wow.
Jamaica, yes, some people from Jamaica, and they were all learning, but at the same time they were pretty competent in what they did.
I agree.
Taking care of me and stuff like that.
So did you come out with a new appreciation on like a worldly scale, or
On a what?
did you feel like you got a worldly experience with
Oh,
all of
yeah.
those individuals from all
Yeah,
across the
yeah.
planet?
It's my habit to ask people where they're from or where their folks are from, so that I get a feel for the international sense of it. And sometimes you can understand what they say, and sometimes you can't understand what they say.
I did have to stop a couple of them and say, he's harmless. He's asking you where you're from because he's curious. Because every time somebody new would walk into the room, he's like, where are you from? Yeah, and I'm like, uh-oh. If you're not from this culture, or if you don't understand him, you might think he's
Yeah.
Yeah.
kind of being strange in his questioning.
I really
mean,
appreciate
yeah.
it. Yeah.
General curiosity, I don't think you need to apologize for that, right?
No, but
As
it was
long as
kind of
you're
the way
not,
the way he delivers it.
Yeah.
You know, oh well, where are you from? Kind of a thing.
Yeah.
It was.
But I think they caught on to it,
Yeah,
so that they know, well, he's going to ask this and that and the other thing.
yeah.
But I want to tell you one other bit of experience with the student nurses.
Mm.
Yeah. They were spotted me and wanted to know if they could listen to my heart and lungs and stomach. Yeah. Because they got to learn somewhere, and And so, but on a later event, they were wanting to watch me do a catheterization,
Ah.
and that was a little more, well,
A little bit uncomfortable.
yeah,
You had some uncomfortable
but I
things.
did it.
Yeah.
You know, I did it because they could watch, and they got the idea of what it takes to do that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
You're probably giving a clinic at this point, huh?
yeah. Anyway, that's my experience at Wesley House, which is a very, very good place.
Yeah.
What would you say about, even though it was a beautiful place and it was a great facility, what would you tell people about if they have a elderly family member that ends up having to go through a rehabilitation center? They can't just drop them off and just say, take care of my dad or take care of my mom.
That's the other piece of it that was a very a great assistance to me, and I think to them, and that's my daughter and her husband would make, if not daily, twice daily appearances, and sometimes change in food that I could eat because I couldn't eat some of the stuff that they had there, and they didn't get the hang of making a soup out of it, you know, which was real easy. Just put ice cream on top of it, and it just really goes, you know. It's delicious stuff, and so it was like we're doing it all together, getting through this rehabilitation thing, and we got out in 6 weeks, got home in 6 weeks, and so here we are, you know,
Yeah.
home, yeah.
And your rehab is continuing. In fact, that was PT that just called while we were getting ready to schedule
Oh,
an
you're
appointment.
kidding. Yeah.
You have OT, occupational therapy, physical therapy. You have a nurse that comes in now, so you still are in the process of getting stronger.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yes indeed. Yeah, I can't just take off and run somewhere.
Yeah.
I guess we're gonna check and see if, how the surgeon felt my leg was okay, you know, so
We'll do that today.
today we get that done.
What would you say to people that are watching your podcast that might be older or have an older person? What was the emotional roller coaster ride that you went on when you first broke your hip and leg to being in the rehab facility or house to coming home? What is that gamut of emotions that you went through?
Yeah.
Starting with falling down and nobody being here, except mom.
Yeah, well, then the fire department, and to take me to Valley Hospital, and so I would say trust in them, you know, call the fire department, have them take you to a good hospital, and then after they fix your leg and hip, you know, with the screws and bolts and everything, titanium, is it?
Yep.
Yeah, trust them, because there were a lot of older people there when I was there. I was, like Michael said, I was one of the younger ones.
Oh, really?
Yeah, well, I think he was partly kidding, but.
But what was your emotional experience through it all? I know that that's not something that you're completely in touch with, but what did that? Where did your mind and your spirit go to when you fell and broke your hip, and then you're in a rehab facility and?
Well, it was kind of like put some things on hold, and some of the research on hold, and so now we're kind of getting back to it. But yeah, it was well, it was like I didn't plan this, and I didn't really want to have a broken hip and broken femur. But now I've got it, so we've got to deal with it, and so you know, it's you know, it just is.
Yeah.
It is what it is, you know.
So like, I heard about this game recently that really vibed with me, but essentially the game is called High-Low Buffalo. And we both share a moment where you've had a high, a low, and then something strange about yourself that you might want to share. So applying that game to Wesley House, what was your highest point in terms of emotional and feeling in that experience?
The Wesley House.
Uh-huh. What was the best day you had at Wesley House? And why was it your best day?
Well, I was when I was up and going with the walker.
Yeah.
Yeah, the low day was when I was kind of restricted to bed and couldn't get up and go to the bathroom or any of that sort of stuff. So that was kind of a low point for me.
So it almost correlates with like hope and like where you're at, right? Because I mean, when you're in the walker, and I'm kind of making a little bit of this up, but I would imagine that was the first time that you were up and moving, and you felt like I'm gonna get out of here, like I'm actually going to like make it out, and that probably wasn't the vibe of the entire experience. There was probably days where you felt like, oh, this is gonna be a little touch and go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he was in a wheelchair up until, because his potassium was whacked out, so they had to give him some medicine, and that created havoc with his body. And so that was, we were probably 2 weeks behind because of that. And so he was wheelchaired to rehab, and I remember a day where he took 600 and, how many was it? 648 steps or something like that. 'Cause
Wow.
Michael counted them. He's got this little wheel, he goes around and counts them.
432.
432, okay,
Yeah.
432.
The fact that you can pull that out is pretty
Yeah.
impressive, Ivan, I
Yeah,
have to
right.
say. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a big high for him, I felt like.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then, it was difficult, I think, watching him, for him to not have the social interaction of the household, even though he's not all that social.
Right.
He comes out and listens and likes noise around him. And so
Yeah.
that's why we were up there a couple times a day.
What do you mean I'm not social?
Well, you kind of,
Yeah.
Hey, we might need to get him social. I mean,
Yeah.
weekly pinochle tournament down at the local coffee shop.
Oh, he won't play a game.
No?
Lord have mercy. No, he doesn't like games.
All right.
Yeah.
So, what was the strangest experience you had while at Wesley House? What is the most strange or off the wall thing you would describe coming out of that experience?
I really don't know. One of the neat things was when Fonzie showed up and called me Papa, and so I accepted that, and I understood about Punjab being part of India, the northern part of India, and they thought I knew a lot more than I did, But,
Well, you have something going on. If
Yeah.
if they think you know more than you do, then you've got them fooled, huh?
well, I'm a bit of a detective with regard to that, and
Do you
yeah.
remember the young lady we spoke to that was from Axum?
Yeah, she's from Ethiopia.
Yeah, Ethiopia, where she is, her grandmother even said that is where the Holy Grail, is that right? No, the Ark. Covenant Ark.
The Ark of the Covenant.
Ark of the Covenant is in the temple there in Axum.
Really?
Yeah, and she has, there's only one priest allowed in there,
Yeah.
That's
and
cool.
that priest will stay there until he gets another one and then he dies.
Yeah.
But her grandmother says she recalls people going in there and being blinded after they went in there.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't recall that.
yeah.
Now, prior to this experience, had you had any interaction with individuals that have lived a life in India or Ethiopia or any of these countries that seem far away to somebody who grew up in Puyallup like me?
No. No. Well, I read a lot.
I picked that up at some point.
Yeah.
Just a little.
I can imagine a lot.
Right.
And so it's not all just blank. And I learn by asking questions of these people and seeing what their reaction is. It's like the denturist is Singh.
Mm.
He's a Sikh,
Mm.
and so is I believe Panji was also
And Harpreet?
a
Harpreet was also Sikh.
Sikh. Yeah, yeah. Well, enough about me and all of that.
That's kind of the fun part.
Yeah, that is the fun part, and that's what today's a little bit about. And then you can talk about something next week. But what would you say about an organization like that? They are a nonprofit. Wesley is a nonprofit, and they. I'm going to get involved with that as soon as things calm down a little bit here with you. They're a nonprofit that
Wesley House, yeah.
Yeah, and I got to find out what part of them is nonprofit, but I think there's a need for a stronger presence of patient advocates in that particular situation. And I could see a patient advocate nonprofit being created, if it's not already created, for elderly people and their doctor's appointments and when they're in a rehab center, or if they're, all those things. Because there are not very many advocates for people.
Yeah.
And I think that could be something that
Right
I'm
on.
going to dip my toe into.
Yeah, right on. I could see those people there, and a lot of them had visitors, and some of them didn't have many visitors at all, compared to what happened in my room, which was Kelly and Mark and about 4 or 5 people a day that were staff, and taking care of things, and so and advocates are really important. Like I can't read without very strong glasses and a bright light. I can't read, so there needs to be somebody to help me out with that, and that needs to be in place,
Yeah. Well, Lorda came in and read to you one day, right? She read you the bulletins.
Oh, yeah.
So, but there is a need there.
Yes.
There is a need there for sure. I think it's bigger than we think, because this was just Wesley Homes. So this was just one facility.
And one of the better ones. From
one of the better
what it sounds
ones.
like, yeah.
But even
Yeah.
the top of the line still has hiccups, and it's not to their fault, but to understaffing and all of that, and miscommunication and things like that. But they're on a path to really be a 5-star.
As a daughter who has a father that's going through that, were there resources on the web that you could utilize to kind of give you any understanding of what was about to happen?
No, you know who you really, I've always been, anytime the word social worker has come up, it's been very nerve-wracking for me, just because I have probably because of what they did for a living, I always thought that was, abuse and things like that, and it's not. I would say that the social workers are absolutely the strongest. Because the internet just sends you to another website, to another website, to another website.
Yeah.
And so as far as giving you easy access, I think the thing to remember when you're talking about elderly people is, you know, they're not going to, if they don't have an advocate, they're going to get frustrated when they get into circles of information. And so understanding was a matter of just me asking questions and my husband asking questions. And if we didn't get the answer we liked, then we would go to the next person. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
If we got a, well, this, and this, why then we'd be like, well, no, that doesn't feel right to me. And then you could go to your social worker and tell them, I'm having an issue with this. And boom, they would make it happen. So I think social workers in the elderly world are, I would imagine we're very short on them. They had 2 there at that facility, and Candace was,
It's very important
Really
to
good.
have them. Yeah, very important.
because they're your caveat to the
Yeah.
facility, even though Mark and I just made our presence very aware.
Yeah.
We just let everybody know we were there, and if we didn't agree with something, we just went and fixed it.
As long as they
fixed
don't,
it.
as long as they don't overreach.
Can't overreach when you have a loved one in a rehab center.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's.
How would you overreach?
Huh?
You mean the social workers overreach?
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, the social workers are supposed to be there for you.
well, yeah. With some of the social work training, they kind of, from what I've seen in other places, well, it's kind of a training, but it's not real. They don't come up with the proper questions and answers. And
Yeah, but I
stuff
think
like
it's
that.
almost, Dad, I think it's like most jobs. You can give them all the training you want, but you almost have to throw them in. And on-the-job training is, even in social work, is the best training. Because you're in it, and the mud is up to your shoulders, and you're like, okay, this is a problem. So then you learn how to unpack it.
Yeah.
And that's I think on the job training is really the best way, especially in that particular. I would love to be a social worker. Problem I would have is if I ran into something more than twice, I'd be
An advocate.
a super strong advocate.
Please fund our campaign.
I would be an advocate that you wouldn't possibly want to have around, because we were on the brink of that. And it was fixed, but we had a situation, and I just told the nurses, I'm a really nice lady until I'm not.
Yeah.
So just don't you. We need to fix that like now.
Yeah.
And they caught our drift, and they caught his vibe, Mark's vibe. He had a vibe one night, and that vibe was well received, and corrections were made. So, you know, but to the defense of the staff, it was a communication gap between the doctor and them. So, and that's humans.
Yeah.
Humans miscommunicate or misunderstand, and that's just life.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's a difficult situation to be in, right? Just because that is their job. Like, they are doing that today. You know what I mean? So you guys have gone through something that's been very emotional and trying and taxing. It's lasted 6 weeks, and now you're out of that. So I think if you're in it every day,
Yep.
you probably become a little desensitized to the madness that's happening around you.
Parmji is loves her, right? And
Yeah.
he also liked Mighty Mite, which is Flora. And they were
Right.
really good with him, but she cried with me in the bathroom one day, and she was the one that started the crying. And then when we left, she cried
Yeah.
because she just loved him so much. And so I know that those people there do have emotional attachment to these people, and how tough it must be for them to know him for 6 weeks and then he's just gone.
Right.
So I'm gonna make sure that doesn't happen with her. And,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know what the deal was there, but, yeah, she's a very sensitive woman,
no.
yeah.
But he's back, and we're making progress, and next week you're probably gonna talk about, or in 2 weeks, we're doing these every other week, right? Twice a month, I think.
We'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every week?
We'll see how
I don't
next
know.
week looks.
Yeah.
We'll
see
talk
how-
Monday.
See how next week looks.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
What are we gonna talk about, you think?
Well, one thing that, I saw in the TV was, ancient aliens was, a rock that looked like obsidian, you know, obsidian shines, it's black.
Mhm.
And, it said it's from a star system outside of ours,
Mm.
outside of our star system.
Interesting.
And there are things that can come in to that, you know. And so I don't know how that happens or what it is.
So
but
you got
yeah,
some research to do.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The other thing that we were going to talk about some is, you know, there's the real things and then non-real things. That is to say, things that you can't really put a finger on.
Hmm.
It's like a psychic energy.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
I-
Well, let's make that the third
Yeah.
episode.
And actually, it's perfectly timed because I finished the Masters of the Mythic Minds,
Yeah.
the book that you gifted me a while back. I finally finished it.
Oh, you did.
Yeah, and that last chapter is pretty interesting,
Yeah.
right? The call to action is essentially like manifestation. You know, a lot of the energies that they talk about is pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So you know, it's like you can believe it or not believe it,
Mhm.
but you just as well believe it. You
Yeah,
know,
that's I
because
hear that.
it's functional.
Right. Yeah.
Okay,
So yeah.
tip your hat. I'm having a personal summer over here, so
Oh,
Woo,
hey,
Lord.
We're back.
we're back
back.
We'll see you next time.
next time.
Let's do it. Ciao.
Ciao. Good job, Dad.
Yeah.
Been a little while, but you got her done.